Right now, somewhere above the Mojave Desert, an aircraft is flying at nearly 1,000 miles per hour, and the pilot cannot see a single thing through the windshield. Because there is no windshield. In its place, a 4K monitor, a camera mounted on a 30-foot needle nose, and an idea so radical that it took NASA over 2 decades to build. This is the X-59. It is designed to do something that has been illegal in the United States for over 50 years. Fly faster than the speed of sound over your house, without you ever knowing it happened. And if it works, it will not just change aviation. It will erase a law that has stood since 1973. To understand why this aircraft matters, we need to go back to a sound. Not a roar, not a rumble, a thunderclap, so violent it shattered windows, cracked plaster walls, and terrified entire cities. It was the sonic boom. In 1964, the United States Air Force conducted a series of supersonic test flights directly over Oklahoma City. For 6 straight months, military jets broke the sound barrier above 800,000 residents, 8 times a day. The result was catastrophic. Over 15,000 complaints, hundreds of damage claims, cracked foundations, shattered nerves. By 1973, the Federal Aviation Administration had seen enough. They issued Regulation 14 CFR Section 91.817, a blanket prohibition on any civil aircraft exceeding Mach 1 over United States land. Not a fine, not a restriction, a total ban. And that single piece of paper did not just kill supersonic commercial flight over land, it killed the Concorde's future. The British-French Marvel could cross the Atlantic in 3.5 hours, half the time of any conventional airliner. But it could never fly supersonic over populated areas, no transcontinental routes, no flights beyond the ocean corridor between London, Paris, New York, and Washington. When the Concorde made its last flight in 2003, not a single aircraft in history had managed to solve the problem that grounded it, the sonic boom. But what if the boom itself could be silenced? To silence a sonic boom, you first need to understand what creates it. When a conventional aircraft flies below the speed of sound, it pushes air molecules aside gently. Pressure waves radiate outward in all directions, like ripples from a stone dropped into still water. But as the aircraft accelerates toward Mach 1, roughly 760 miles per hour at sea level, something extraordinary happens. The aircraft begins to catch up to its own pressure waves. Those ripples can no longer escape forward. They pile up, compress, and stack against each other like an invisible wall of air directly ahead of the plane. This wall is the sound barrier. And when the aircraft pushes through it, all that compressed energy is released simultaneously, as a shock wave. Now here is the part most people get wrong. A sonic boom is not a single event. It is not the sound of breaking the barrier. A supersonic aircraft generates shock waves continuously. Every second it remains above Mach 1. The boom does not happen once. It follows the aircraft like a shadow, sweeping across the ground in a cone-shaped carpet of pressure, the Mach cone. And when that cone reaches your ears, what you actually hear is 2 distinct pressure spikes, one from the nose of the aircraft, one from the tail. A sharp rise, then a sharp fall. Scientists call it the N wave, because when you plot the pressure changes on a graph, it looks exactly like the letter N. For the Concorde, this N wave hit the ground at 105 to 110 perceived decibels. That is louder than a jackhammer at 10 feet. But what if, instead of letting those shock waves merge into a single violent spike, you could stretch them apart, weaken them, shape the boom into something the human ear barely registers? That is exactly what the X-59 was built to do. The X-59 does not look like any aircraft you have ever seen. It is almost 100 feet long, roughly the length of a Boeing 737, but its wingspan is barely 30 feet, making it absurdly narrow.
Its body tapers to a needle-thin point at the front that stretches over 30 feet, nearly 1/3 of its entire length. This nose is not aesthetic. It is the weapon. A conventional aircraft's nose creates a blunt pressure spike, a sharp, sudden compression of air that becomes the front half of the N-wave. But the X-59's elongated, razor-sharp nose slices into the air so gradually that it prevents the shock waves from stacking. Instead of merging into a single violent boom, those pressure disturbances are stretched thin, scattered across a wider area, and weakened individually. By the time they reach the ground, from an altitude of 55,000 feet, what was once a thunderclap becomes what NASA describes as a sonic thump. 75 perceived decibels, the sound of a car door closing from across a parking lot. But that 30-foot nose created a massive problem. The pilot cannot see forward. Not a sliver of sky, not the horizon, nothing. NASA's solution? Remove the windshield entirely and replace it with the External Vision System, XVS. A high-definition camera mounted on top of the nose feeds a live image to a 4K monitor installed directly where the windshield would be. A second camera, retractable into the fuselage to preserve aerodynamics, deploys during takeoff and landing to show the runway.
The pilot flies a Mach 1.4 aircraft by watching a screen. If that sounds insane, it gets stranger. The engineers at Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works, the same division that built the SR-71 Blackbird and the F-117 Nighthawk, did not design every part of the X-59 from scratch. Much of this aircraft is assembled from pieces of other legendary jets. The landing gear? Pulled from an F-16 Fighting Falcon. The ejection seat and canopy? Taken from a Northrop T-38 Talon trainer. The engine inlet? Borrowed from a U-2 spy plane, the same aircraft that once photographed Soviet missile sites from the edge of space. The control stick? Salvaged from an F-117 Nighthawk stealth fighter. Many of these parts came from the Boneyard, the 309 Aerospace Maintenance and Regeneration Group at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Arizona, where over 4,000 retired military aircraft sit in the desert sun. The engineers call the X-59 the Franken-plane, a monster stitched together from the body parts of aviation's greatest legends. But this monster has a purpose. By reusing proven, battle-tested components, the team saved years of design, testing, and certification, and redirected that time and budget toward the one thing no part from the Boneyard could provide: the shape that silences the boom. On October 28, 2025, the X-59 lifted off from Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works facility in Palmdale, California. 67 minutes later, it touched down at NASA's Armstrong Flight Research Center at Edwards Air Force Base, the same runway where Chuck Yeager first broke the sound barrier in 1947. The maiden flight was subsonic, 12,000 feet, 230 miles per hour, modest by any standard. But it was the most important subsonic flight in modern aviation history, because the X-59 was never meant to impress with speed. Not yet. It was built for a different kind of test, one that has never been attempted before. NASA's plan unfolds in 3 phases. Phase 1 is what is happening now: envelope expansion. The team is gradually pushing the X-59 higher and faster, testing its aerodynamics, validating the external vision system, and confirming that the aircraft behaves exactly as the simulations predicted. Each flight inches closer to Mach 1. Phase 2 is the acoustic validation. Once the X-59 reaches supersonic cruise, Mach 1.42 at 55,000 feet, ground-based sensors will measure exactly how much sound reaches the surface. This is the moment of truth. 75 decibels or louder? Success or failure? But Phase 3 is where everything changes. If the acoustic tests confirm a quiet thump, NASA will fly the X-59 over real communities, ordinary American towns and cities. Not military bases, not empty deserts. Your neighborhood. Researchers will then survey the residents. Did you hear anything? How loud was it? Did it bother you? Could you even tell a supersonic aircraft just passed overhead? The data from these community overflights will be compiled into a report and delivered directly to the Federal Aviation Administration and the International Civil Aviation Organization. The goal is not just to prove a concept, it is to give regulators the scientific evidence they need to rewrite the rules. For 53 years, the ban on overland supersonic flight has been based not on a specific noise threshold, but on the assumption that no supersonic boom could ever be acceptable. There was no data to suggest otherwise. The X-59 will provide that data, and if the public response confirms that a 75 decibel thump is tolerable, or even unnoticeable, the regulation that killed the Concorde could be revised. Not eliminated. Revised. Replaced with a measurable standard. A standard that an entire industry is already designing for. Consider what is at stake. $632 million. 8 years of engineering. An aircraft with no windshield, built from the bones of Cold War fighters, designed to break a law of physics without breaking a law of government. And none of it, not a single dollar, not a single rivet, was spent to make anyone fly faster. Because the X-59 is not about speed. It is about permission. Humanity solved supersonic flight in 1947. We flew passengers at Mach 2 in 1976. The technology has existed for decades. What we never solved was the noise. And so, for half a century, the fastest commercial aircraft ever built was confined to ocean corridors, economically crippled, and eventually retired. Not because it could not fly, but because the world could not tolerate the sound of it flying. The X-59 is NASA's attempt to close that gap. Not by going faster, but by going quieter. If it succeeds, the next generation of supersonic airliners will not just fly from New York to London in 3 hours. They will fly from New York to Los Angeles, Tokyo to Shanghai, Dubai to Mumbai. Every overland route that the Concorde could never touch. If it fails, if the thump is still too loud, if the public still objects, if the regulations remain unchanged, then supersonic commercial aviation may stay permanently grounded. Either way, the answer is no longer a theory. It is sitting on a runway in Palmdale, California, waiting to fly. There is a strange irony in the X-59. The loudest barrier in aviation history, a thunderclap that cracked walls and shattered windows, may ultimately be brought down not by raw power, not by brute force, but by a shape. A very long, very thin, very precisely engineered shape. 75 decibels. A car door closing. That is the sound of the future, if we can prove that silence is enough. If this changed how you think about the future of flight, consider subscribing. We break down the engineering, the strategy, and the hidden science behind the machines that shape our world. And one question before you go. If supersonic travel came back tomorrow, and you could fly anywhere in half the time, where would you go first? Drop your answer in the comments.